Who's the girl? That lightsaber was Luke's, and his father's before him, and now it calls to you. Han told me. Dear child, I see your eyes. You already know the truth. Whomever you're waiting for on Jakku, they're never coming back. But there's someone who still could.
And we are live. What is up, all you crazy Star Wars fans? This is a special occasion. This is a series of live streams that I'm going to be doing with this man, James from the Rebel Scum podcast. James, how are you, brother?
I'm great. How are you? Josh, thanks for having me on here.
Dude, of course, man. Of course. I'm doing well. I am pretty dang excited because we are, what, a month away from The Last Jedi?
A month and like 5 days to be exact.
That's, okay. Yeah.
But who's counting?
But who's counting? Hours and, counting hours and stuff like that. Yeah. Hey, real quick, I want to tell everybody that's watching it, we'll try to kind of throughout remind people, but we have some cool, excellent prizes for people. We're going to be doing trivia questions throughout the show, and the first person to get the trivia question correct in the comments of the live stream will win one of these dope prizes. So let's start with the little baby Kylo Ren. We got a little baby Kylo Ren action going on. We got a little baby Chewbacca, who is adorable. Kind of doesn't really look like Chewbacca, but that's all right. We got a little baby BB-8, You can hang this on your car window, and the cops will pull you over and stuff. That would be great. And then last but not least, the toy that James cannot find in Canada, the little baby Porg, the little baby Porg. Yeah. And if you didn't catch some of my videos on social media, check this out. This thing, it talks. It freaking talks, man. It's crazy. But yeah, so that, we're going to be giving away that. So all you got to do is answer one of our trivia questions correct. If you get it correct, you'll get the prize. But there's a grand prize for anyone who shares the stream. So I know people can't necessarily watch the whole show. All you have to do is share the stream out on Facebook. Share it, however, we'll be able to see that. Everybody that shares it will be entered to win this here Kylo Ren pop toy. It's the new one from The Last Jedi, so he's got no mask on, he's got the little scar, there's the Scargate thing going on. So all you gotta do is share the stream and you'll be entered to win that. We're not gonna pull that until much later because I want to give people that don't even watch it live a chance to win Kylo. The pop. But these things we're going to be giving away during the show. So, James, I want to start real quick. I want to ask you a question about The Force Awakens. So, I have this theory that essentially The Force Awakens will be a better film after we see The Last Jedi. Meaning, after we watch The Last Jedi, there's going to be stuff that we believe that will make The Force Awakens make more sense. So I want to ask you, and I'm going to let you kind of go at length so I can invite some more people in here. What do you agree with that? How do you think the two movies, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, are going to work together sort of in tandem?
I think that if you're not right, then there's a huge problem. I really like The Force Awakens, but it had a lot of flaws, and it left a lot of questions unanswered, obviously, and it left a lot of questions unanswered that I felt could have very easily have been answered in that movie. And The Last Jedi, as much as its job is, to be its own film and to focus on that, I think at the same time it really needs to focus on the questions that were left on The Last Jedi. And it's not necessarily the one we're going to talk about later today, which is Rey Kenobi or who is Snoke, but there are just so many aspects of that film that felt unfinished. It felt, and J.J. Abrams has said this, that the purpose of The Force Awakens was to bring in a new generation of Star Wars fans, to remind everybody why they love Star Wars, and really, I think it succeeded in that. But very intriguing about The Force Awakens is 2 years later, the backlash that it is receiving right now. There seems to be a lot of hate focused towards this film, and that, you know, you could argue that any big film has the same amount of backlash. If you mention Avatar,
right,
pretty much everybody hates Avatar now, right? And they're going to make 200 more of those, and they're going to cost $1 billion and probably make $8 billion each.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the problem with big movies itself, that people have a backlash because, you know, it's so popular, so big that I think human nature is just to, like...
Right, to be, like, contrarian about it and sort of, like, not, you know what I mean?
The Last Jedi does not make The Force... Yeah, if The Last Jedi does not make The Force Awakens a better film, then this is, for me in the future, when I watch all 20 Star Wars films or whatever it is, you know, everyone says The Phantom Menace is... You can watch the prequels without The Phantom Menace. You can watch the original 6 without The Phantom Menace. You take that away, you don't really lose much. Is that going to be the case with The Force Awakens? And I think The Last Jedi really... That's really up to The Last Jedi, I think. If The Last Jedi does its... You know, if The Last Jedi is a good movie, then The Force Awakens will be a necessity to watch. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I really feel like the more I think about it, man, like, I really do believe that The Last Jedi... Remember when JJ said recently that he wishes... When he read the script for The Last Jedi, he wished that he had wrote it? A lot of people just think that he means, oh, that's a really awesome script. But I think beyond that, what he is saying is Ryan took these story threads that I sort of started and really expounded on them in very interesting ways, made them really, really enjoyable. So I personally think that that's kind of what we've got going on. And I'm excited, man. I mean, we're really close. I'm super hyped for what we're going to be getting. Now, let's get right into this theory. Now, look, guys, the way this is going to work, like I said before, if you share out the stream, you're automatically entered to win this here Kylo pop figure. It's kind of cool. It's kind of dope. And stay tuned for as long as you can, because we're going to be dropping trivia questions where basically if you get the first person to get the trivia question correct in the comment section will win one of these toys, including this adorable little porg that I know James wants. So,
question.
Yes.
Can I win the porg?
Unfortunately not. I would love to make... He's done. He's done. Oh, man. All right, so we're getting into this here. This is, of course, the Rey Kenobi theory. Rey's lineage, one of the biggest questions. You want to talk about, like, you know, mystery boxes, things that they did in The Force Awakens. Rey's lineage. Who are her parents? The little intro video that I played at the beginning, it's obvious that her parents play a part in the overall story. Maz Kanata says to Han Solo, who's the girl? You know what I mean? Kylo Ren says, this is the girl that I've been hearing so much about. What girl? And he chokes dude. You know, God, it would suck to work with Kylo Ren anyway. But, like, yeah, so it's a big part of it. Now, we're going to break down the Kenobi theory. Now, before we get into it, I just want to ask, I haven't asked you this, James. Are you a believer in the Kenobi theory?
How's that for an answer?
Yeah.
I don't know. When I first saw The Force Awakens, I was going into it. I was like, okay, she's Luke's daughter.
Yeah.
That was when I got into it. And then when the movie ended, and it wasn't at least revealed in the movie that Luke was her father, people started coming to me saying, "Oh, so that's Luke's daughter." And then I started to think, well, now it can't be Luke's daughter if everybody is assuming that it's Luke's daughter. There's no way they're going to do it. The Kenobi thing was something that I think I read. I think I read it on an article online, and it was one of those, like a small blog or something, and someone's like, I think it would make a lot of sense because I like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there's a lot of similarities. And it was basically just plain and simple that, and they're like, and I think he broke down a couple of reasons why. And this is before all the hype came on the Kenobi thing. Right. I was like, well, that's interesting, but how does Obi-Wan have a child?
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But the other thing is, then that child has to have a child. But when I think about it now, and I look at Rian Johnson, and I look at J.J. Abrams and the whole new regime, you start to think that maybe they just kind of go, don't worry about that so much. Yeah,
it's possible. I mean, one of the things that because I've talked to people about the theory and stuff, and they're like, well, this, and this, and timelines. Like, we're going to get into it in a second here. I'm actually going to put up a sweet image that has the timeline sort of plotted out for us. And look, one of the things I think people need to realize is all it takes is someone at Lucasfilm being like, nah, that's not the correct timeline, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Like all they have to do, they are in control. They can retcon anything that they want to. But let's get down to brass tacks here. I want to break down point by point what the theory is. Now, a lot of this is coming from Vincent Vendetta's YouTube video. By the way, Vincent, awesome dude. He watches the Den of Nerds, just saying. But he puts out some awesome theory videos. He's the breaker of the YouTube algorithm, and honestly does awesome work. So shout out to him. And a lot of this comes from his Rey Kenobi theory video, which is fan-frickin-tastic. But here, let's break it down point by point. So I want to start with some comments that Daisy Ridley made, okay? Now, I'll go through all of these comments, and then we'll talk about what they could mean. So she said, basically, that she thought it was all answered in The Force Awakens. Basically, some people had asked her after The Force Awakens came out about her lineage, and she said, I thought it was all obvious. And then she talks about going to a screening with her agents and stuff after, you know, the movie came out, and she realized that to them it's not obvious at all. Okay, I think that's a big clue. She's also said that she's solitary. That's her start, so there's a clue there to what it is, meaning like her being isolated on this desert planet has something to do with her lineage. Somebody directly asked her, is she a Kenobi? And she gave an answer that's sort of weird. You know, like we can read between the lines. She said, we'll see in about a year. Just sit tight on that question. So let's go through those comments, man. What did those comments mean to you? What do you think about that?
First of all, when she answers the Kenobi question, we'll see in a year. Okay, there's the way to look at it where, obviously, you know, she didn't want to give everything away, but also she's been instructed not to say anything. And I think she knows enough and she's been told enough to keep it vague. And the more vague you keep it, the more people will go on it. And so I don't think that was a tell, to be honest. I just think that was her being very vague, being like, just wait a year, you'll find out who her parents are. We're not going to tell you right now. And that's where I am on that. The solitary thing is kind of intriguing because that could, I mean, I don't know. That could be anything right there. And then her thinking that it was obvious. For me, this has always been this. There's a few ways. If I was writing a script right now and I was keeping a character's lineage secret and I said, Josh, just so you know, this character's father is King blah blah, and then you read it and you're like, well, obvious. This is so obvious. Correct. Once you know something is but if I don't tell you that, you read it, you would have, and there's no reason to suspect it, then you wouldn't find it that obvious. So I don't think, like, I think she's being genuine in that quote, but I think that she's from a certain point of view. She's seeing it, there you go, Obi-Wan Kenobi right there. She's seeing it through the eyes of someone that knows the outcome. So I don't think that's fair to assume. But then when you watch The Force Awakens and let's say that's not the case and she had no idea and she's reading it for the first time and she thought it was obvious the first time, if you watch The Force Awakens, there's no clue that, I mean, okay, if you watch Vince Vendetta's video, then you know there are a lot of clues. But if you're an outside Star Wars fan, which she seemed to be going into it, the obvious clue would point to like a Solo at that point. You know what I mean? Because of the way Han Solo acts with her. And that's how I feel. Now, when you watch that video that you...
Sorry, you were breaking up just a little bit.
In terms of convincing me, but we'll talk about that next week. If you watch that video, he does point out a lot of facts that really kind of push me in the direction of she could be a Kenobi.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, you're breaking up just a little bit. I'm gonna.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna take in. So yeah, I agree with you that So the thing is, when she says it's obvious, I think that when she says it's obvious, that's the biggest hint. And I do agree with you that there's an aspect of that could be obvious to her that's not obvious to us. Meaning, like, she's read the script, she sees things in the script text that is pretty plain as day about, where she gets sort of these abilities and stuff like that. However, I do think that her thinking it was obvious is a huge hint. Like, that's a huge hint to it. Now, the one thing that means, and we'll talk about this when we sort of talk about the reasons the theory might not work, is the obvious answer is either Solo or Skywalker, just based upon, what happens in the film. But I believe that what she is talking about when she says it's obvious is a couple of different things. So now I'm going to run through basically the evidence for Rey Kenobi, and then we'll kind of break it down. So the first one is her accent. And to Star Wars fans, if you're like not hardcore, you might not understand why this is important. But essentially, she has an inner rim accent. Perhaps it was definitely from a core world, and it might even be from Coruscant itself. So, but guys, if you don't know, basically the way that it works is there's the core worlds, then there's the, outer rim, kind of in between area, then there's wild space, then there's the unknown region. So you can think of the people in the core systems as like sort of uppity, higher class. They have English accents. So most of the people on Coruscant have a specific accent. Obi-Wan has one of these accents. So the fact that Finn, who does also have an English accent in real life, John Boyega's English, was forced to have an American accent, and yet Rey was forced to have an English accent, is one of the pieces of evidence. Another piece of evidence is the mind trick that she uses, which is like another big point of contention. Like, people get all mad about that, because it seems really ridiculous and out of nowhere, and that it's an incredibly strong power that she showcases there. But I think that if you think of that as just a parallel between her and Obi-Wan from Episode 4, it makes a little more sense. I mean, that's the signature move of Obi-Wan. It is something he does during A New Hope, and then that is repeated in The Force Awakens, because whether people like it or not, Star Wars is poetry. We're recycling a lot of these things. Look, everybody hates Episode 7 because it's a remake of Episode 4, but yet they miss that point as well. The next point is about the lightsaber itself. Okay, so she gets this out of a chest, and I think what's crazy here is, remember in Episode 4, in A New Hope, Obi-Wan takes the lightsaber from the chest and gives it to Luke. This is Anakin's lightsaber, and he gives it to Luke. So basically, her getting it from the chest and giving it to Luke at the end of the film parallels completely the role that Obi-Wan had in sort of a weird reversed way in A New Hope. And when she says that there's a solitary aspect from her start, I believe that she's talking about that and how it relates to Obi-Wan as a hermit on Tatooine. Not Luke, because Luke was not alone and in solitary when he was on Tatooine. He had a lot of friends that he would go waste time with when trying to change his power converters. And he had a family, his uncles and all that. He was not solitary. Neither was Anakin. Anakin had friends. He, that's so Wizard Annie. He had a family. He was not isolated. The only other person that we know that was solitary at their, at a big section of time on a desert planet is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Then finally, the last point I want to bring up is the rumors about Obi-Wan being in Episode 8 and in Episode 9, and the fact that we are officially getting a Kenobi movie. And you and I know this, but there were rumors that the reason the Kenobi movie was pushed and not announced right away is because Kenobi has a role to play in the saga films, in the next two films. So that's all basically the evidence. Let's get into this.
Yeah, so I was saying how the Obi-Wan film is the one that I really, really, really buy into, because they have not officially announced it. And then, what was her first comments were regarding
the solitary thing, and then there's the
solitary thing. I'm not. It doesn't really. I don't really care, because Yoda was in solitary confinement. Like, there's a lot, who Kanan probably was for Billy. There's a lot of Jedi. The Jedi that's in the Vader comic who went off into the thing, he was like, there's a lot there. So, I mean, maybe that she's hinting at Obi-Wan with that, but that's kind of. But if she is hinting at Obi-Wan with that, that's kind of a dead giveaway on a hint, so it's almost too much on the nose.
Right. But that's kind of my feeling. My feelings on it are that she's like she knows so hardcore that it's Obi-Wan. You know what I mean? Like even when she was making that comment, I bet she was like, well, should I even be saying this right now? You know what I mean? And I think too, just in general, for me, it's like when you go back and you go to when they were basically just doing press, because she had never done a movie before, ever. So I look at a lot of her early interviews and stuff as like, they don't really have a great hold on her. She doesn't exactly know. Like when we saw her at Celebration, she was like a pro. She knew what to say, you know what I mean? Like she knew exactly how to handle questions. When The Force Awakens was first kind of doing promotion and stuff, I don't think it was that way. You know what I mean? Like I think she was a little more green.
Probably. The other thing that I'll point out when you bring up Star Wars Celebration is if you remember on that panel, they keyed her as Rey Kenobi.
Yep.
Where, everyone was like, oh, they're trolling. To hide it in plain sight, right? So, they joke about Rey Kenobi, but maybe they're just like, just put it out there and then people will be like, it can't be that. Right. I just don't know. Andrew's done a video on our channel I think a couple of times, a Vote No Confidence, Andrew Fantasia. And the very first Vote No Confidence that he did was by himself, and he did Rey Kenobi versus Rey Palpatine. And his only thing that he put in there was he didn't find the story as intriguing if Rey is a Kenobi. That being said, what I do love is I do love the idea that the Skywalker saga is ultimately the Skywalker Kenobi saga.
Right.
That is something that I really, I do really enjoy that a lot. The other thing, though, is when Luke says, I've only seen raw power like this once before. It didn't scare me then. It does now. If she is, in fact, a pure Kenobi, do you think Luke would be so afraid of her? Because Ben Solo has some Anakin in him. The dark side lives in the Skywalkers.
Right.
Like, would he be that afraid of a Kenobi? Because Ben Kenobi was all, he was what he was. He was an awesome character. But he was, like, almost all light side. Like, he was a genuine person, genuine Jedi. So would he feel that if she's a Kenobi?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. And once again, if you're rejoining us, sorry. I'm trying to invite more people back into it. James screwed up and hit the stream button off.
I have that power.
Yeah. So, no. To answer your question, it's interesting. I don't know if those two things correlate. Like, if if being afraid of her has much to do with her lineage. And it's also possible that he knows pretty much exactly who she is and is the one that left her on Jakku. You know what I mean?
That's, I don't have... Brock, who I do the Rebels Come podcast with, has a huge problem with that. I personally don't have a problem with Luke being the one, even if she's Luke's daughter somehow, some way, which I don't think is the case anymore. No. But even if that was the case, I don't have a problem with her being left on Jakku because of what Jakku is. And look, if someone's in danger or something, every fantasy story, Harry Potter, you leave someone in a bad situation. That's just what you do.
Right. So, I mean, look, there's also the possibility, too, which we're going to get into next week a little bit, that she's Palpatine and Kenobi blood combined. And I mean, like, dude, that terrifies me just thinking about it. You know what I mean? Just saying it kind of terrifies me. But, yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I mean, so let's get into just a little bit more of the evidence. So we talked about... What about the accent? What do you think about the accent?
I don't think much about it.
Really?
I actually don't. I think I did a video on this like a year ago. I think last December 1st, something that I did, when we used to do stupid videos on our channel that I no longer do because we just talk now. But we used to do a bunch of videos, and I did one, and I said because they have the accent, and I just think that's I just don't. The accent thing does not do anything for me because I don't know. It just. I can't really explain it anymore, but I just don't.
But here's the thing: it's a specific choice. Because here's the thing.
But also all Imperials are British too, though. So I mean,
well, most are. Eli Vanto isn't. You know what I mean?
Well, now they've changed it, but back then, 2 years ago, they were. You know what I mean? Like, like that's what I mean. Like, so the accent thing is for me not a tell. And I think Boyega having the American accent is more because of the way the stormtroopers are and that class of trooper. That's how I saw that one. I just don't buy the accent. The accent, I just don't buy it. Maybe she couldn't do an American accent. Like, we won't even ask her. This is like her second movie. Just stay with your voice.
It's it's possible. It's possible. I think the accent is a hint. I think the accent, because you don't get an accent like, and if you think, here's my thing. Like, it's too. A lot of people, I think, have this belief that JJ and everybody that was working on The Force Awakens was kind of pulling straws together, sort of just making stuff up as they went. I really don't believe that. I mean, like, JJ didn't want to do this thing, and then when he got brought on board, I believe that he went all in and really dug into, like, what does this mean? What, you know what I mean? Like, what do we do here? He's working with Kasdan. He's working with people that, the story group that absolutely loves this property. And her having that accent, I think, is a conscious decision. Now, it could be something as simple as them being like, well, we want to differentiate her. But that sort of makes it seem like they don't know her history, which I don't buy at all. They knew exactly what they were doing with Rey. I think if she's a Kenobi, it makes total sense for them to combine the Kenobi Skywalker bloodlines when Reylo becomes a thing, which we'll talk about later. But it makes a lot of sense, and I think that the accent is a hint. But to me, it could mean one of two things, and we're going to talk about Palpatine next week. But that's another thing, man. If that's a Coruscant accent, she could have picked that up while Sheev, Sheev and his mistresses were, dancing around Coruscant or whatever.
Yeah, but you know who else has a British accent?
Who?
Unkar Plutt.
Yes.
So I mean, like, there are people everywhere with these accents, and I think, yeah, he does. Quiet girl. It's Simon Pegg. For me, the accent thing, even if it ends up being she is a Kenobi, I don't think the accent is a tell. Because also, we'll get into this later, but if Kenobi had a child, and that child got married to a man or a woman, who's to say that man or woman had a British accent anyway? And then so Rey, like, the Obi-Wan accent, really, to be fair, 2 generations away.
Correct, but to be fair, you don't get an accent by blood. You get an accent by being raised in an area that accent is around. Like, for instance, I talk way more Philly-like than I did. I'm not from Philly, but I've been living in Philadelphia for several years.
But now you're just proving the point that she's been on Jakku for 10 years, so she'd be on Jakku longer than she was off of Jakku. So her accent could be Unkar Plutt.
Do we know confirmed that she was on Jakku for more than 10 years?
Well, she was 9 when she was on Jakku, and she's 19 in the
okay.
movie. So
yeah,
I mean, she might have left, but
right. I can see what you're saying. I think that 9 years, that first 9 years, is where you really develop your language. You know what I mean? So
but sorry, what I'm saying though is, if, let's say, her mother or father has the British accent and then the other one doesn't, who's to say where she grew up? Is it like, it's just hard to for me, it's just not a tell.
Interesting. Okay, so for everybody that's just getting on the stream and all that, I'm just gonna go through the points again on the breakdown of the theory. James and I have sort of been discussing the points of the theory, but I'm gonna run through them all again just for the benefit of people that just got into the stream, because James totally screwed up and killed our first stream, which was doing great, by the way. But anyway, here we go. So it all circles around some comments that Daisy Ridley made when asked about her parentage right after The Force Awakens. She said, "I thought it was obvious, and it was answered in The Force Awakens." She also has said in interviews that she's solitary. That's her beginning. So that has a clue to what she is and where she comes from. We think that means Kenobi. There's not a lot of other people that her lineage has to do with that could be solitary. Anakin was not solitary on Tatooine, on Tatooine. Neither was Luke. They both had friends. When asked directly about the Kenobi question, she said, "We'll see in a year. Just sit tight on that question." Her accent, which is Inner Rim, perhaps even Coruscant, would suggest that she was raised by someone who had a similar accent, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi. She utilizes the mind trick in Episode 7, which is a signature move of Obi-Wan Kenobi and was first seen in Episode 4, which, the Episode 4, Episode 7 parallels are really obvious. The chest, in which the lightsaber was taken out of by Rey, is very well, possibly, the same chest that same saber was taken out of when Obi-Wan first handed it to Luke. And at the end of the movie, by Rey handing it back to Luke Skywalker, she is completing that circle, doing the same thing that Kenobi did in a sort of weird reverse way to Luke Skywalker. So that's the evidence. Now we're going to get into the problems of the theories. But let's do our first trivia question. If you are the first person to get this trivia question correct in the comment section, I will mail you out this adorable little Kylo, free of charge. That's all you gotta do. And anybody who shares the stream, which you guys should be sharing the stream, come on, show us a little love, you will automatically be entered to win this Kylo pop figure, which will be nice, and you could give as a gift. You could even give it as a gift back to me, because it's really hard for me to let go of this. So that could be kind of cool. But here's the first trivia question. What was the name of Obi-Wan's love interest from the Clone Wars series? And we'll have to give a little bit of time for people to answer that question, James, because the stream delays or whatever. So let's...
They need time to get on their Google search engines.
Yeah, get on your Google search engine, guys. So the question is, just to repeat, what is the name of Obi-Wan's love interest from the Clone Wars? And that
does the answer Rey's mom count?
If maybe Rey's grandmother, maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
We'll talk about that time and all that.
Maybe.
Oh snap! We got an answer, Milo.
Oh what?
Duchess Satine, you got it, brother. You got it. Yo, Milo, hit me up. You don't have to put it in the chat, but give me your address. Is that one of your followers?
Well, what's Milo's? I can't see it on my feed. It's not showing up.
Naranjo.
Naranjo, yeah. Hey, Milo.
Milo.
Milo
nice
contributed to our Execute Order 66
nice.
last week.
He commented on that too. He said, "Siri, what is the name of?" Question. A lot of. Melanie Shoemaker was really close too. Melanie Shoemaker almost had it. She was off by just a little bit. I would have accepted that answer, Sadine Wren, even though it's not. Satine's last name was Craze or whatever, I believe.
Yeah.
So interesting. Hey, Milo, hit me up in a private message or friend request me or something so I can get your address, or give it to James. Either way will work, and I will send you out this nice Kylo.
Awesome. Congrats, Milo.
I believe. Listen to some of the things he says. Prepare my ship. Follow my lead. Oh, man. Milo. Dude, yes, you get it. And that's awesome. So, and like I said, guys, if you share out the stream, you're automatically entered to win that pop. Can you tell I'm trying to get you to share the stream? All right. So, let's go to the next part of this live stream, which is the problems with the Rey Kenobi theory. Okay, so James, I want to talk. The first problem is I guess the other main possibilities, aka the Skywalker thing. So, let me just ask you this: are you on the Skywalker wagon? Do you think that she's a Skywalker?
I did. Right now, what I would like is for her to be another sort of chosen one type character, not necessarily born of the Force or anything like that, but just someone who is bigger than the Skywalker saga itself. That's really what I would like, and that's why I'm kind of away from Kenobi, away from Palpatine. But I do enjoy talking about it. And if any of those things happen to come to fruition, which I kind of feel like it might, I don't have a problem with it necessarily. But I just don't. If she's a Skywalker, like the way Luke has been talking to her in the trailer, unless that has all been cut in a way to disguise what it is, why would, like, if that's his daughter or niece or whatever, why would he talk to her in that manner?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I understand he's like, I'm not going to train you as a Jedi, but why would he be like, I've seen the power like this before. It didn't scare me that. Like that line, it just does not seem like he would be talking to a relative. If he's talking to a relative, like, you're dangerous, stop it.
Yeah. There's
like, look at me, I have one hand.
Right. Now, look, they could be hiding it, but there's nothing to suggest in promotional material that they have that kind of a relationship. And look, just in general, I know it happened in the EU with Mara Jade and all that, but when you really think about Skywalker's character, he does not seem like the kind of person to father a child. Like, it just doesn't, especially when you consider that he was on a path, he was on a crusade to truly understand the Force. That is going to be, you know what I mean? He's like, he's married to the game. He's married to the Jedi game.
And we're going to talk about timeline, you said, in a little bit, but I mean, if you look at that, like what we said earlier, if Rey is on Jakku at 9 years old,
right,
and she's been on Jakku till she's 19, so that's 10 years there, and Luke is with Ben Solo at like 6 years before The Force Awakens. How, like, that does not add up whatsoever.
Right. So we don't really think that she's a Skywalker. However, it is sort of one of the main arguments against the Kenobi theory. I mean, look, George Lucas wanted to make these movies about the grandchildren of Darth Vader. And in his mind, he was going to make probably very similar type of movies. I would say in his version, Kylo and Rey would be related for sure. It also sort of explains how everybody seems to kind of know who she is, but not really. And it would explain why she's so strong as well. So, you know, look, do we personally buy into it? No, but that is part of the thing that makes it back here. Now, here's the other point of evidence I want to bring up, that this sort of is against the Kenobi theory. So, the voice, right? When I first heard the Force back vision, all I heard was Alec McGuinness saying Rey. And by the way, it's so awesome that they got that clip. They went back, archived it, and ripped it out of another word. I think he was saying afraid. And then they took Rey. Brilliant. But anyways, there are other voices in that Force back. One of them is Sheev Palpatine. One of them is Yoda. Do we think she's related to Yoda?
Yep.
Obviously.
No.
Look at that haircut. No.
It's the ears for me.
Yeah, the ears, right? No, I guess the point is there were many voices in the Force back. So it's possible that the Force back has nothing to do with her lineage, and if it does, it could be one of those other voices. So what do you think about that?
Well, I would say the whole Force back, I think I ticked Erin off, my wife Erin. I think I ticked her off in the theater, because every time I heard a voice, I would like nudge her on the side, like, did you hear Yoda? She's like, no, shut up. I'm trying to watch the movie.
Yep.
And, but, you know, my feeling, you know, this actually convinces me more than the accent, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, okay, we hear Yoda and we hear good old Sheev, but Obi-Wan says a brand new line that has never been spoken.
True.
He says, Rey, these are your first steps.
Yep.
So, you know, and they could have got Ewan McGregor to say it all, and it's kind of cool that they merged the two.
I agree with that.
But, you know, he says, Rey, these are your first steps. Why is he talking to Rey? And why is he not a Force ghost? Why is he just audible like Qui-Gon at this point?
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered stuff. And look, James and I could, if you know anything about me and James, we could go way nerdy on this. Like, we could go really nerdy. And we have before in videos. And we've tweeted at Pablo Hidalgo while we've been recording and stuff. A lot of good times. But there is something to it. Look, we don't know exactly what the Force vision is. In one of these live streams coming up, I do want to go over the lightsaber theory, which I think will be fun to break down. Have you ever heard of that theory?
I have, yes.
Okay, so we'll break that down and sort of get into the Force back vision in depth in, you know, that live stream. But it is interesting that he says in the vision, Rey, like as a question mark, and then these are her first steps, sort of mirroring this idea that, like, Luke, what Obi-Wan said to Luke was, these are your first steps, you've taken your first steps into a larger world. And it's the call to action, it's the part of the hero's journey. We know these movies are majorly about Rey, that's why we're having this frickin' discussion. And so it mirrors all of that, and yet also has this hint of, like, what if he's not being figurative? What if he's literally talking about her first steps? He's watching over his grandchild or something, you know what I mean? You know, because I think the Kenobi theory is sound if she's the granddaughter of Obi-Wan. I think it's almost... there is a way that she could be direct descendant of him, but it, like, barely... It really doesn't make sense. Like, it would have to use Loth wolves, basically.
You just said something, though, that sparked a light bulb in my head. Is you said these movies are largely about Rey, and I was agreeing with you until they're called the Skywalker Saga.
Yes.
So if they're called the Skywalker Saga, then they're either about Luke, Leia, Ben, or another Skywalker.
Yep.
I personally think the Skywalker saga is about Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
That's what I think. And so this might be a side Akbar, but when you said it, I just got to thinking, like, yeah, it's about Rey. But is it about Rey? Are we missing? Is it not about her? Is it about something else? And I always go back to Anakin because Anakin he's not the first Skywalker, but he's, the first male Skywalker to have children, I suppose, since Shmi's father, I guess. Yep. But anyway, so if you're on that level, then is Rey associated with the Skywalker lineage? If she is, and this, I should have brought this up in the first half, maybe that is the connection with Kenobi, because whenever there's a Skywalker, there has to be a Kenobi. Maybe that could be the way to look at it. But maybe, ultimately, maybe these stories are actually about Ben Solo.
Yeah.
Well,
it is. It is for sure. And we've heard weird things where they're co-protagonists, and we're gonna get into Reylo later, and I think Reylo is a lock. Reylo is not just a theory. Reylo's happening, and it might not be exactly a love connection the way that a lot of people are shipping it, but they're connected in a way. And I think that we've talked about this before, but Kylo's on a reverse Anakin journey, right?
Yeah.
And so Rey will be the thing to sort of bring him back. And look, one of these live streams is going to be the redemption of Kylo, which is something that you and I are totally against. However, when we do that live stream, there's something I was thinking about recently that kind of makes me think, sympathize with him for the first time maybe ever. And I think it'll be interesting if that is indeed what happened. Then yeah, man, he needs brought back because he's insane and it's not his fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I think the movie is about Rey, but it's they're doing this weird reversal circle thing where she's Ben Kenobi, but also younger. You know what I mean? She's bringing Luke back into the fold the same way that her grandfather brought Luke into the fold originally. And so I think that's kind of what's going on. The other thing
I like your reverse idea, because the reverse Anakin, we talked about that last week on our podcast actually, but the reverse Anakin with Kylo is very intriguing, because if this is the Skywalker saga, and I think it's about Anakin, but let's say this saga is about Kylo, and Episode 9 ends with the end of Kylo's storyline, the end of the Skywalker lineage as we know it, but then Rey ends up being a Kenobi, let's say, and this propels the next saga, which is the Kenobi saga, the new one. Now Kenobi's at the forefront. So that's an interesting way to look at it.
I totally agree. I think that's kind of what they're going for, right? They want to have, and essentially what they could do, and it depends on what they do with Kenobi and stuff, but they could make Rey and Kylo the begin, because you're Disney, you don't just want. They said they're planning out the next 10 years of Star Wars, right? With our new characters, and look, they know that they've got, if they combine the Skywalker bloodline and the Kenobi bloodline and have Rey and Kylo together, and there's some kind of new order, Jedi order, or something formed, you know what I mean? Dude, you have an opportunity for just almost total fan service, nostalgia fan service, and allowing the saga films to continue to be about the Skywalkers, but sort of elevate the Kenobi bloodline to that very same level. Dude, people love Kenobi, man. You know what I mean? People absolutely love that character. And he's arguably the best parts of the prequel. And so you know how, JJ's recently said that he wants to bring all of the films together for Episode 9? The prequels, the regular, everything together. What better way? What better way than having Rey Kenobi? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So
I'm glad that we're doing the positive on the negatives right now.
I know. You know what I mean? That's the thing. We're this is the negative aspect, but you know what? We kind of did that with the first one.
Yeah, we definitely did. Yeah.
So I'm going to pull up this image here because we want to talk about Duchess Satine a little bit, okay? Because a lot of people point to, and look, I'm a big fan of this theory, even of this aspect of the theory, even though it's kind of been debunked. So I'm going to put this image up for you guys. This is from the Star Wars Post, which did a really great article kind of explaining the timeline here. And here's essentially, if you see here that at 24 BBY is when, around the time when Order 66 was popping off, is around the time that Satine dies. So she actually dies in 19 BBY, and then Order 66 takes place at 24-25 BBY. So essentially, the only way this could have worked, there's a couple of different ways that this could work, because I want to talk about the princess comments that Adam Driver recently made. If you don't know, guys, Adam Driver recently was interviewed and was talking about, you have this princess who's hiding her identity to what did he say, protect herself?
I don't... Did he mention protecting? I think he just said running around, didn't
he? He implied, I forget the exact language, but he was talking about how she's keeping it a secret to protect herself.
I've got the quote here, I think. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, because he's talking about this on episode 67 of the podcast yesterday. So here we go. You all have also the hidden identity of this princess who's hiding who she really is so she can survive, and Kylo Ren and her hiding behind these artifices.
Yes, hiding who she really is to survive. Right. That's what intrigues me, right? So, honestly, what do you think he means by that? You think he's just being kind of offhanded there?
Well, I think this is the princess thing. I think is not. Do not take that at face value. And the one thing that I never really talked about this yesterday because I didn't even pay attention to this part until you brought up the hiding part. Is now I'm starting to think Rey knows who she is right off the bat.
Yeah,
like when we
because remember what she says. Who are you? Oh, big secret. Me too.
Yeah, like I have this feeling. Like, what if she wasn't left on Jakku by someone? What if she went to Jakku at such a young age because she could, and she's kind of a badass at that, and she could just like what if she knows like when we first meet her,
right?
We know herself get taken by Unkar blood. That ship that flies off. This is, by the way, this is all just speculation out of left field that I'm coming up with based on one line. But what if that ship taken off isn't even like her ship, like her parent ship? What if like that's just she's pretending for Unkar blood, and the whole time she's with Unkar, she knows she could outsmart him, do whatever, but she's waiting for something.
Yeah, well, I think I think you're kind of onto something there. I don't know if I would say exactly. I think she was left there, but she was left there by. Here's the theory for me. So, it is possible that Satine did father Sabine. I know that there's evidence out there to the contrary, but as I've said before, the only thing they need to do is say, because Filoni has kind of been sort of vague on the timeline of how old she is. And also, he's been known to straight up lie. So, he could straight up be lying about it. But here's the thing. What if, there's two scenarios that I'm thinking here. The princess thing could mean to me that she is literally a Mandalorian princess, meaning royal bloodline. So whether it be that like Sabine is actually the child, and maybe this gets revealed later in Rebels or something later, that Sabine is the child of Duchess Satine, she's the rightful ruler, even though she's reluctant to take the throne, she eventually does, and then fathers with Ezra Bridger, baby Rey, which would explain why she's so strong, or Obi-Wan hanging out on Tatooine, being lonely AF, is visited by either Bo-Katan, who is the sister to Sabine, or Satine rather, or someone in that bloodline who comes there just to meet him, learn about shit, and then they formulate some kind of relationship, and he has a baby on Tatooine that then needs to be hidden. Or it's a Palpatine thing, where she's literally Palpatine and Kenobi bloodline combined. You know what I mean? That to me is super intriguing, because the idea of her being the rightful ruler of the new empire would be interesting, because there'd probably be Imperial sympathizers within the First Order that would be like, no, we want this girl and we want to follow her, which would be kind of an interesting twist. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I could get on board. You know, my thing with the Satine thing is it's so isolated to the Clone Wars show compared to the films. Mm-hmm. And this is why I think if you go any route with Obi-Wan, that Obi-Wan film is what you have to have. The other thing is, when he was on isolation on Tatooine looking over Luke, like, why would he go ahead, fall in love, have a kid, then be like, we have to also hide this kid because I'm looking over this kid? Like, I mean, now, this is where I said earlier before we got cut off, what I said earlier, where they could go back and retcon whatever they want,
right?
In a lot of ways. It's just so, like, it's almost like they're it just seems like they're trying too hard to make her a Kenobi if they do all that. You know what I mean? I don't know. There has to be, if she is a Kenobi, it has to be an overly simplistic explanation, and right now I cannot tell you what that is. There has to be a simple way.
I can tell you what that is.
Okay, go for it.
The Kenobi movie.
Oh no, that's what I mean. But
yeah.
But in the Last Jedi, your grandfather was my teacher, Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's all we need to know.
Yeah,
but then the question,
all we need to know, right?
But then in 9 though, because then the question is, people will say, well, how did Obi-Wan died? Because the first thing that a walk-on fan is going to say is, but Obi-Wan died, right? Because that's where their head's going to be.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, or they're going to say he was looking after Luke. So then in 9, you almost have to, because this movie is not coming out when Han Solo's coming out.
Right.
Because if Obi-Wan was coming out in May, when Han Solo comes out, then you can be like, oh, they're going to answer everything in the Han Solo. This is kind of like, that would be the most perfect way for Disney to tell these stories, for Lucasfilm to tell these stories, was to give me a question in this one, and then the spin-off answer it, and then go back. But then, so 9 is going to have some sort of answer, unless, of course, it happens in Last Jedi, but I don't think it will, to explain how Obi-Wan conceived this child.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's possibilities there. I think it'd be intriguing if she's a Palpatine and a Kenobi, which, like I said, we're going to go into the Palpatine evidence next week. Make sure you come back next week, guys. And we'll do some more prizes and stuff, too. It'd be fun. But what if, so this is kind of an interesting thing. This is super fan fiction-y, right? But I was thinking in my head, what if one of these, let's say, love child of Palpatine starts to understand who she is and the power that she has, right? And she understands that, like, remember how, like, in the Aftermath novels, they're all like, no, Palpatine trusted the dark side, and so shall we. And it's sort of like that, the contingency sort of goes full on dark side, and they, like, really embrace it. So, like, what if she knows this, goes to Tatooine to seek out Obi-Wan, and does a Palpatine sort of thing all over again, where she like just becomes the love interest of him and sort of has this baby, and then leaves, like, you know what I mean, like leaves, takes the baby with her, and sort of is like, I got what I needed out of you, now I'll have Force prodigy child that will help me take over the galaxy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, if it's Palpatine, though, I'd really like the idea of Palpatine doing exactly what Lucas wanted Palpatine to do to Anakin, but then that never came through. And just have him Force create Rey, like the ability to create life. That is how I'd like to see the Palpatine thing play out, because I just think that's like an ultimate weapon in a way. It's like, I can create something, and it's going to be inherently evil, and then obviously that doesn't come through. And then that makes the leaving on Jakku, because somebody realizes who this person is, who this Rey child is, whatever her name is, Kira 2, whatever her name is. Like, they're like, we got to abandon her because she has trouble. Let's put her here. But Rey knows everything. Like, she knows what's going on. So I don't.
Yeah.
I just think, like, yeah. I mean, if you do, like, Palpatine had a child, and that child went and had sex with Obi-Wan, it's kind of like, okay, Days of Our Lives. What's happening? What's going on?
To be fair, that is kind of already the Star Wars thing. You know what I mean?
That's
Days
true.
of Our Lives. You know what I mean? Like, people.
It very much is.
Oh man, people. Look, the Rey Kenobi thing is one thing. Wait till we do Reylo. People are gonna lose their shit. But I've got to tell you, there's so much evidence for Reylo that, like, it's hard not to buy into it.
Last week, our episode 66, so we let all the viewers, like, give us the topics for that.
I watched it.
It was so much.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was so much fun. But one of them was about Reylo, and so I titled it Reylo something. And it was the We got a dislike.
We got a dislike before it even went up.
Before the video even went up, we got a dislike. I was like, oh, people hate Reylo. People love it, but they absolutely cannot stand Reylo, and it makes me laugh now how much people hate Reylo.
Yep. Yo, peace out, Milo. He said he had to go dig in the live stream, but it got to bounce. But yeah, he said, I have faith, pun intended, that the story group could react or retcon or outline a Rey related to anyone with so much time gaps not canonized. That's an interesting point. They specifically have left kind of that time period alone. You know what I mean? So they can fill that in. But let's do another trivia question. Everybody, get ready. Get ready. It's trivia question time, and then we'll pretty much end the stream after that. So let's go for the little BB-8 here. Oh, that's adorable. It does. Oh man, it's like beep beep bleeping. All right, guys. James, you have a trivia question, do you not?
I do.
All right, let's do your trivia question. Everybody, get ready.
Hold on. No, I don't have one.
Uh-oh.
I lost it because my computer died.
Uh-oh. You want me to just... No, that's okay. You want me to just do mine?
Yeah, can you just do...
All right, here we go. The question is, on what planet is Darth Vader's castle located on?
That's actually my exact question I was going to ask. So.
Oh, beautiful. So we killed two porgs with one stone.
My computer died. I'm sorry. What planet is Darth Vader's castle on?
Yes, and it was recently revealed in comics that there is a Sith temple on that planet, an ancient Sith temple. So interesting. Somebody will get it, unless all these viewers are not feeling like commenting. The stream could just be far behind, too. It's kind of a weird situ, what they do with this whole Facebook thing.
I can't even comment.
Really?
It keeps deleting my words every time I hit the spacebar.
Yeah, I think it's... If I'm watching it right now, I haven't even, like, asked the question yet on the stream. So, like, I just put up the BB-8 on the stream, so...
I'm sorry, my computer was on the whole
Vinny
time.
Got it.
Oh,
Vinny Perez.
Congratulations, Vinny.
Nicely done,
I don't have that.
Vinny.
I can't even see that on mine.
Yo, Vinny, similar story, brother. Just hit me up with your contact details, and I will ship this little BB-8 to you. Okay, let's finish off this live stream. The last thing I want to go over with you, James, and thank you once again for being here. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me. I'm having a blast. Can't wait to do this every Thursday until...
I know. I'm so excited, dude. Like, honestly. And this is the first one. It's sort of a trial run, you know?
Yeah, next week I'll have my trivia question written down on old-fashioned paper.
Oh, dude, I feel so bad. Melanie, so close. Melanie, again, so close.
Ah.
Oh, dude.
Good job, Melanie, though.
She'll get one. So, yeah, last thing, and then we'll wrap. I want to know, if they do this Kenobi thing, man, do you think it's bad for the trilogy? Like, do you think that this... Because a lot of people right now are complaining about it shrinking the universe, making it too small. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think about that?
Absolutely not. I am okay with it. You know, everyone, I hear those complaints. You're making it too small. But this is the quote-unquote Skywalker saga of it all, as we have been talking about. So Obi-Wan Kenobi in this makes sense because this is a very Days of Your Lives story. These characters are all connected somehow. The prequel trilogy did it, and everyone was like, it's shrinking it because everything was connected from that to this to that. I'm okay with it. I think it makes sense. I think it adds to the story. Like we talked about, if you watch the Vince Vendetta video, how Rey is now giving the same lightsaber to Luke that Obi-Wan gave to Luke. The battle between Kylo and Rey is symbolic to the Obi-Wan and Anakin battle. There are parallels like that just work out so well if she is in fact a Kenobi. So I have no complaints if it is. And in regards to it shrinking the galaxy, we're going to get an Obi-Wan film, which how does that not shrink it? We're getting a Han Solo film. Yep. But then Kathleen Kennedy said she had something like 10 years, or the story group has 10 years of Star Wars stories planned with the new characters. Like, I think she specifically said Rey, I can't remember. But yes, there's 10 more years at least. So if you're shrinking the galaxy now to expand it later, bring it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind that at all. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I guess I wonder, when everybody brings up that question, I guess I wonder, like, so in the beginning, when all these random characters get together and we focus on them, like, were you upset that we weren't focusing on the people in the next booth, like, at the cantina? You know what I mean? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of a ridiculous argument. Anytime you focus on characters, you're shrinking and putting a lens on those characters within the story. And Star Wars especially, just because it's so... You know what it is? It's really perennial storytelling. It's old school mythology storytelling. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting little hints of, like, Joan of Arc here. Just great, you know, mythology, hero's journey type stuff. And within that context, like, it would just feel weird. Like, consider, like, one of, like, the older great stories. Like, if you were telling Robin Hood... and you told this story, and then, like, the next, like, book or the next episode or the next movie, it was focusing on Fred Roberts, just some random dude. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you'd be like, dude, who the fuck is this Fred Roberts guy? Like, I want to know about Robin Hood. And so I feel like that is sort of the counter-argument to that. I don't have a problem with it. Even if Rey is nobody, which I'm really leaning against, actually. It would be great if she was nobody, but it's not Star Wars-y enough, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing. And, you know, we all come back to these movies for these characters that we watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so why not keep it in the family?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Okay, so that's going to wrap. Guys, we're going to do this again next Thursday. We're going to be doing this every Thursday as we head towards The Last Jedi. Next week is Rey Palpatine. We're going to go over the possibility that Rey is related to none other than Sheev Palpatine. And that'll be really fun. We'll do some more giveaways. I still didn't give away the porg. I'm going to hold on to this porg. I'm giving it away.
That's because you're just going to mail it to me.
Hey, if I find another one. Dude, this thing was incredibly hard to track down, by the way. It wasn't
really?
Target.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but it was like, I was searching. All I could see was that 3-foot big stupid porg. And I'm like, oh,
I've never... We don't have Target here anymore because they royally screwed up in Canada.
Huh.
But no, they did. That's a story for another day. Yeah. But I was like, how do you even have, like, who would buy that? I don't understand it. I know it was a giveaway on Force Friday, but that is insane to me. And the only other porg I've seen is this one. It's at Walmart. I think the Disney store. And it's like that big, but it's hard as a rock and it has wings. It goes,
yeah, I've seen that one too. I almost got it because there's like, I want to start doing porg recipes. So we'll have a segment on the website where we give away like the best recipes on how to cook your porgs. We're sort of trying to trigger some people, but at the same time, I think it's kind of funny. But I was looking for a good porg. Like, how could you make a porg and look like when we like cut it or shred it or you know what I mean? Like, I want it to look really grotesque, like when we have the little chicken or whatever. Something we'll figure it out. But yeah, so I was considering that robotic porg. First of all, it's way too expensive. And
it is.
And I felt like tearing it apart would be such a pain. I was like, oh my God.
I don't know. How much is it at your store? Because it's like $45 here, I think.
Oh my God. No, it's not that much, but it's like well over 20. I think it's like 25, 30 or something.
Oh man, it's like 45 here. But our dollar sucks, so
yeah.
Everything's more expensive here.
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, so guys, like I said, you share the stream out. Anybody who shared is going to get entered to win the Kylo Ren pop, which is really cool. And we'll give away a pop every week, too. And the last Thursday of this, we're going to do Reylo. So get all your angry comments ready for Reylo. The day that
I'm looking forward to that one.
Out. Oh my God, I can't wait.
I can't wait, because I am all in on Reylo now.
I'm all in on Reylo, dude. Like, there's things about it that I absolutely love, and I love the fact that, you know, not to like go too far into it, but I love the fact that she essentially like cut his face, right, and scarred him, and yet I think that we'll all call back to that moment of The Force Awakens where Kylo goes, "It's okay, I feel it too," which is one of the lines that's always stuck out to me as a weird line. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay, I feel it too.
Yeah.
What does he feel? Oh, he feels that love connection. And, yeah, so that's going to be awesome. And they'll make incredible Force babies. And some of their Force babies will go dark, and some of their Force babies will go light. And we'll be nerding about it. In 5 years from now, we'll be like, remember when we did those crazy live streams back in the day? And friggin' Reylo, everybody hated on it and all that, so...
I love that we're going to have those accents. I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, that's because of what is going to happen in The Last Jedi. We're going to be talking like this.
Sweet.
Yeah. Nice. Well done. Well done, sir. But anyways, James, thanks for being here. Tell everybody where they can find you. If you guys don't know, James is part of the Rebel Scum podcast. Him and Brock. What did Brock call himself? The Wolf Brock or
Lothbrock? I don't know.
Lothbrock. Yeah.
He likes to name himself things.
Yeah, the last episode was so funny when you guys were going over that. Dude, I want to get Brock on one of these. I know he's like always busy and he doesn't want to talk to the Den of Nerds, but we love Brock.
Well, he works like, you know what? Let's I'll tell him, and maybe he'll have a lunch break when you do it or something one Thursday.
Yeah, maybe we can take him in even for a little bit.
Yeah, we did when J.J. Abrams got hired to do The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do a video. We got to do a video, and I need you in the video. And he's like, call me right now. I have lunch. And it was literally like we had this amount of time to do it. And so he works a lot. He has a job. But so I'll let him know about that. But yeah, you could catch me at the Rebel Scum podcast on the YouTubes. We're on Patreon now, patreon.com/Rebel Scum podcast. And we do video every week. Andrew Fantasia will be starting doing our Flying Casual show. He'll be leading that that thing later on. So we have fun talking Star Wars. Hopefully they don't stop. If they stop making the movies, then I don't know what we're gonna do.
Oh, dude, you guys would be fine. If anything, you would get a little bump because people would be so hungry for the content. You know what I mean?
That's true. Maybe they should stop.
Yeah, stop doing those movies. They're no good. They're no good.
Disney ruined Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm Josh. You can find me here at the Den of Nerds. Going to be doing these live streams every week. I cannot wait to talk about Rey Palpatine next week. Make sure you subscribe to the Den of Nerds YouTube channel. James occasionally will get on there and do a cool Star Wars video with me as well. So we do a lot of Star Wars. I put a pretty interesting Snoke video recently that I think people will enjoy. So go check that out. That's all I've got in this one, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Oh, Cody McCarran joined at the very end. Cody, you screwed up. You screwed up, my friend. It's over. It's over. So I'm sorry. I can't stretch the show anymore. But you're
next
good,
week,
Cody. Yeah, come back next week. All right, let's wrap it there. Thanks again, James. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Yep, and may the Force be with all of you.